Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Anton, and welcome to today's video for Honkai Star Rail. Now, what are we going to be talking about today? Well, today we're going to be talking about the free 5-star character that you get after you do 300 pulls on the regular banner. Why are we going to be talking about this today? Well, in my opinion, I feel like a lot of free-to-play players, low spenders, or just people who have, started the game a little bit later than others are getting close to that 300 mark. And I do feel like a lot of information out there for this kind of video is outdated. Because a lot of people made this type of video and talked about these characters when the game was still in its early infancy, and a lot has changed since then. A lot of stuff has changed from the beginning of the game, new characters, new relics. So yeah, from that. Now, a lot of people I have noticed for this type of video have just said, just pull for who you don't have. Which is not necessarily wrong. It's not necessarily bad advice, but it's not necessarily the most optimal choice. Yes, by picking a character you don't have, it does let you play more styles, but sometimes an Eidolon can increase the power of your current teams by a large game-changing amount. Personally, I do think each and every character that you can pull from this banner is a fine choice. They are, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, Bronya, Welt, Himo, Clara, Japar, Ching, and Beidou. They're all fine. Some are much better than others, though, of course. Now, too long didn't read. Simply put, if you don't have Bronya, you get Bronya. If you have Bronya as an E0, you get E1 Bronya. If you don't have E1, if you have E1 Bronya, at that point you might choose something else, but even then, E2 Bronya is pretty good. So if you really just don't know what you want, you don't really have anything in mind, just choose Bronya. Once you start to get to E3 Bronya, you might want to choose something else because, like every other character's third Eidolon, it's just increasing their skills. I can't remember exactly which ones it increases. I think it's like basic and ult. Might be wrong on that though. So yeah. Now, what am I going to do for the rest of the video, though? I'm going to go through all of the characters, all 7 of them, and talk about why I think each and every single one of them is a worthy choice. And we are going to start with Bronya, the one I think is the best choice in terms of meta. Now, Bronya. As I said, I do think she is significantly the best pick over the others in terms of meta. She goes in pretty much every single team comp. Her Eidolons are really strong too, especially her E1. When using the skill, there is a 50% fixed chance of recovering 1 skill point. It has a 1-turn cooldown. Why is this so good though? It helps her skill point economy. She is a fairly skill point hungry supporter, and this is especially really great for teams that are skill point hungry, for damage dealers that are skill point hungry, like an Imbibitor Lune or a Xing Shui. I also mentioned her E2 as well. It is pretty good too. A speed increase is pretty nice, but at that point, you might want to consider picking up another strong character. A character that opens up different playstyles, for example, Clara. But I do think Bronya is the best character. Why? She just gives you so much versatility. She goes in pretty much all team comps, so you don't know what to pick? Pick Bronya. You want to just go, you just care about meta, you just care about making MOC easier or whatever? Pick Bronya. Now, let's go to the next character. Now up next, we got Himo. Himo is one of those characters that has kind of been forgotten, sadly. I think she's a pretty good character. I actually have Himo and I have built her, and I really like her. With the recent follow-up set, she has gotten a sizable boost in power too. Topaz release also works really great with her. She works really well with Topaz. Definitely very strong in MOC 10 with Topaz. The AoE is just really, really good damage. Yes, she's not going to do as much AoE damage as, say, like a Jing Yuan or an Imbibitor Lune, but, well, you're comparing, like, limited characters who came out much later than her, too. Plus, the fire damage is nice, synergizes well with Asta, too. So, yeah, I really like Asta. I think she is a very solid choice if you, or sorry, Asta, Himo. I really like Himo. Very solid choice. Puts out surprisingly high amounts of damage, so yeah, go for it. A lot of people will even say like Hook is better than her. I don't think so. Now, I do think her Eidolons kind of suck though, sadly. So if you already have an E0 Himo, that's all you kind of need. Now, the next character we're going to discuss, we got Welt here. I have a Welt. I haven't actually built up my Welt, but that's not because I think he's bad. Mostly because I have other characters I'm building up. HOYO isn't a good example of that. Also farming some of the new relics for other characters I currently have, like Kafka and Himiko. But I do think Welt is a good character. Also similar to Himiko, he's not really talked too much about in the meta, even less than Himiko. A lot of people just seem to have forgotten about him. I don't know why. I think he's a really good character. Yes, with Imbibitor Lunay's release, damage dealer DPS Welt has kind of fallen off, but I think even back then, DPS Welt was not the way to go with Welt. I really do feel like supporting style Welt is the way to go. Debuffer Welt. His debuffing and slowing of the enemy is really good. Solid AoE too with that slowing. The problem is, though, it's not really helping you deal much more damage compared to other supporters and debuffers, so that's, in my opinion, why he doesn't see as much play. But if slowing down an enemy does become a thing and becomes meta, or even just there's a solid payoff for it, Welt will be a great character. And he's also just kind of fun to play. Next up, we got Japar. Now, I might be saying a little controversial stuff here with Japar. Some people might hate me for what I'm about to say with Japar. I still do think he is a very good character, don't get me wrong, but I do feel like Japar has kind of fallen off in terms of meta. And to another extent, another character that we'll talk about later, we'll talk about her more in depth, Beidou. Japar used to be a very highly played character, for the main reason being we just had very few sustainers. We had Natasha, Beidou, and Japar, so a shielder and 2 healers. We didn't have Luocha, we didn't have Fu, HOYO, Lynx, etc., etc. I still think he's a solid choice, though, even though those characters I just mentioned have come out and are really good. But he's just not as good. Now, if for some reason you don't have one of the top tier sustainers like a Luocha or a Fu Xuan or a HOYO, maybe, I don't know, for some reason you just like to keep pulling damage dealers to just, you gotta go full Unga Bunga, do damage. Yeah, Japar is still a good character to pull. But with Lynx and Natasha both being 4 stars, you probably have them. I mean, you definitely have Natasha. You get her for free if you just go through the story. So, yeah, it's just... he's not as great value as he used to be, but he still is a very good shielder. And Mono Ice is a thing, too, to note, and he does pretty well in that, too. Mono Ice would say, like, I don't know, like, Jing Liu, Silver Wolf, and he can be their sustainer. So, he is still a strong character, still very good, solid choice of a character, but he has kind of fallen off a little bit because of more and more very powerful sustainers like Luocha and Fu Xuan. And now, we have Clara. Now, I like Clara. I think Clara might be the second best character to pull after Bronya. If this was a few months ago, I would probably say Japar or Beidou is the second best character to pull after Bronya. But again, with the addition of other sustainers, I think both Japar and Beidou have fallen down in the priority list. Now, why is Clara so good? Well, very strong counterattacker. Fairly unique playstyle. No one else really does anything like her. The only other character that's even close to what Clara does is, I guess, Blade. She's got a lot of good versatility too. Puts out great damage. She tanks well. She can be a pure tank or like a sort of pseudo, not pseudo, but like not a pure tank, but like a DPS tank. Depending on how you build her. Like early game, I know some people like to build her as a pure tank. I do think the best way to build her is more damage oriented, because even if you build her for damage, she still tanks a lot of damage. And then you just put in someone like a Lynx or something, or a Luocha to, help heal her, or even a Fu Xuan. Fu Xuan's pretty good with Clara as well. So yeah, she does open up a lot of teams for you. I think she's just a really good character, solid damage out there, very good in MOC. She does have one downside though that I feel would be disingenuous not to mention. That downside is she doesn't really benefit from speed that much, unlike other characters. Reason for that is she kind of wants the enemy to be doing a lot of stuff. She wants the enemy to be taking all the turns, so the enemy will hit her and then Sivarog will go and just basically punch the person in the face and, you know, get lots of counterattacks. So that means she's not that great with something like, say, a Asta or a Bronya, sadly. So does that mean she's not good? Of course not. She's still a great character. Okay, now we got Ching. Personally, my lowest priority character. If I had to make this into a tier list, Ching's at the bottom. Does that mean I think Ching's a bad character? Of course not. I just think out of all these characters, Ching is the worst, if that makes sense. The lowest priority character to add to your team, so whatever. Why is that though? Because you might say like, well, I watched another person do a video like this and they said Ching's really good. How long ago was that video made? Because a long time ago, basically before Jing Liu came out, and even further back, damage dealers were kind of sparse pickings. A lot of characters, a lot of, not characters, but roles were a little tough to fill in because of the smaller character pool. And that's why a lot of people said Ching was very good, because we didn't really have that many good damage dealers. There was like Zila, and that was kind of it for top tier damage. And now we've got Imbibitor Lune, we've got Blade, we've got Jing Liu, Kafka, Jing Yuan as well has kind of come back. But yeah, before Jing Liu especially, he was a fine choice because he was the only good ice damage dealer. Yes, Herta exists, but as much as I love Herta, I do have to admit she's kind of bad. Plus, she is more of an AoE damage dealer compared to Ching, who's a single damage dealer. Single target damage dealer, sorry. Next up, he does take a lot of support. And you might say, like, well, doesn't everyone take a lot of support? Any damage dealer take a lot of support? He needs even more support than the other damage dealers. Because he doesn't want to take damage. You might say, like, well, everyone doesn't want to take damage. Ching especially doesn't want to take damage. He takes damage, his damage dealing will go down. He will do less DPS. So you need something like a good shielder for him, or at the very least, a good taunter. So basically Japar, in other words. Like Fire MC doesn't really give a big enough shield. There's March, I guess, if you can build a good March, but it's just not good enough. So you kind of needed Japar. And so that means you needed Ching and Japar. And if you have Ching and Japar, he does do a lot of damage, like almost on Zila levels of damage. Now that's the thing. He's not equal to Zila levels of damage, just almost. And that's a lot more a commitment you're putting in. So yeah, if you do have Japar, you want to make a ice team, mono ice team, or you just want an ice damage dealer and you don't have Jing Liu, Ching's a fine choice. Sadly though, in my opinion, he kind of is just a victim of power creep from other damage dealers being added to the game, like Jing Liu, who just don't need as much support as Ching. And the last character we got Beidou. Now, in all honesty, there's not much to talk about with Beidou. She is what she is. She is just a healer. She is a great healer too. She does heal a lot, but very similarly, like Japar, she used to be a highly played character purely because of the game's state. We just didn't have many sustainers back then. It was just basically, besides Beidou, Natasha, and Japar. Now with Luolcha, Fushwin, Huohuo, Lynx, we've kind of got choices now for sustainers. Still though, I think she's a good character. I do have a Beidou. I am building her up too, in fact, as well. I got her recently, but I have been building her up, and I really like her. I think she's very good for lightning teams as well, as the healer for the lightning team, so Jing Yuan or a Kafka team. Mono lightning as well, if you want to call it that. So yeah, I like Beidou. I think she's solid. The heal is really nice. The only downside, and this is a big downside to Beidou, which would probably keep me from pulling her and choosing her, is the lack of a cleanse. Not being able to cleanse is just such a big deal in a lot of fights, in a lot of different MOC metas. And sadly, Beidou just doesn't have a cleanse. If she had a cleanse, she would actually be a really strong, probably not top tier healer, but she'd definitely be like maybe the second, probably third best healer, in fact. Which is not saying much with how few healers we have, but still. Anyway, though, that is going to be it for the video. I hope this video helped you guys decide who to choose if you are trying to figure out who to choose for your free 5-star. Again, basically, Bronya is great. Bronya really strong. But if you don't want Bronya, then after that, just choose whoever you like. Clara, smile. But yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion though. Do you disagree with any of my choices? Do you think maybe I'm being a little too hard on Ching? Do you think I'm being way too nice to Bronya and just really like hyping her up when she's not that good, if in your opinion? I would say you're crazy if you don't think Bronya's that good, but maybe you have a good reason. I'd love to hear your reasonings. And also, if you haven't picked it up, or if you have picked up your free character, which character have you chosen? Anyway, though, that's going to be it. I hope you all enjoyed the video as well. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like or a comment down below. It always helps me out and always helps out the channel. And if you guys want to keep up with the Honkai Star Rail content, you can always go and subscribe to the channel as well. Also, if you want to watch me play some Honkai, you can go and check me out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Zenatan, where I stream pretty much every single day. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video, and until I see you guys in the next one, bye!